Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Girivaradhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari and Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Mr. Bhad Paramahansa Parivadikacharya Ashtotar the Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivadikacharya Ashtotar the Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Shri Isopanisad Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So before we begin, just to point out this last line here, as you can see, is quite a bit longer, and you reduce the type size. Can everyone see that? But anyway, this is big, medium, small. So this is, Upanishads do that. You'll see quite a few irregularities, and this is probably the most graphic in the Isopanisad. This last line looks like it has about twice as many syllables as the other lines, or maybe 50% more. So just be careful as we chant it. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this second day of September 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Shri Isopanisad, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Mantra 8 today. Sapayagat chukkamakayam avranam asnavidam shuddham apapa vidham Kavi manishi paribhu swayambhur Yata chatortan vidadat chasvatibhyak samabhyah. Okay. Sapayagat chukkamakayam avranam asnavidam shuddham apapa vidham kavi manishi paribhu swayambhur yatat yato tan vyadadat shashvatibhyak samabhyah Saparyagat chukkamakayam avranam asnavidam shuddham apapa vidham kavi manishi paribhu swayambhur yata tatyato tan vyadadat shashvatibhyak samabhyah. All right, before we go on, the first word in the fourth line, it's a little tricky. Yata tatyato. Yata tatyato. Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. Sapayagat chukkamakayam avranam ashnapvidham shuddham apapa vidham Kavir manishi paribhu swayambhur yata tatyato tan vyadadat shashvatibhyak samabhyah. Anyone else want to try? Sapayagat chukkamakayam avranam asnavidam shuddham apapa vidham kavir manishi paribhu swayambhur yata tatyatortan hidadat shashvatibhyak samabhyah. Bala, you're up. No, you're up. Sapayagat chukkamakayam avranam asnavidam shuddham apapa vidham kavi manishi paribhu swayambhur yata tatyatortan hidadat shashvatibhyak samabhyah. Ladies. Sapayagat chukkamakayam avranam asnavidam shuddham apapa vidham kavi manishi paribhu swayambhur yata tatyatortan hidatat shashvatibhyak samabhyah. Saha, that person, parayagat, must know in fact, shukram, the omnipotent, akayam, unembodied, avranam, without reproach, asnavidam, without veins, shuddham, antiseptic, apapa vidham, prophylactic, kavihi, omniscient, manishi, philosopher, paribhuhu, the greatest of all, swayambhuhu, self-sufficient, yata tatyataha, just in pursuance of, artan, desirables, vyadadhat, awards, shashvatibhyah, immemorial, samabhyah, time. Translation. Such a person, okay, that's like, who is that person? He's been talking about in 2 verses. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? This was text 7. So now this is text 8, translation. Sorry about that. Such a person must factually know the greatest of all, the personality of Godhead, who is unembodied, omniscient, beyond reproach, without veins, pure and uncontaminated, the self-sufficient philosopher who has been fulfilling everyone's desire since time immemorial. Purport. Here is a description of the transcendental and eternal form of the absolute personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord is not formless. He has his own transcendental form, which is not at all similar to the forms of the mundane world. The forms of the living entities in this world are embodied in material nature, and they work like any material machine. The anatomy of a material body must have a mechanical construction with veins and so forth, but the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord has nothing like veins. It is clearly stated here that he is unembodied, which means that there is no difference between his body and his soul. Nor is he forced to accept a body according to the laws of nature, as we are. In materially conditioned life, the soul is different from the gross embodiment and subtle mind. For the Supreme Lord, however, there is never any such difference between him and his body and mind. He is the complete whole, and his mind, body, and he himself are all one and the same. In the Brahma Samhita 5.1, there is a similar description of the Supreme Lord. He is described there as Satchid Ananda Vigraha, which means that he is the eternal form fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss. As such, he does not require a separate body or mind as we do in material existence. The Vedic literature clearly states that the Lord's transcendental body is completely different from ours. Thus, he is sometimes described as formless. This means that he has no form like ours, and that he is devoid of a form we can conceive of. In the Brahma Samhita 5.32, it is further stated that with each and every part of his body he can do the work of the other senses. This means that the Lord can walk with his hands, accept things with his legs, see with his hands and feet, eat with his eyes, etc. In the Shruti mantras, it is also said that although the Lord has no hands and legs like ours, he has a different type of hands and legs by which he can accept all that we offer him and run faster than anyone. These points are confirmed in this 8th mantra through the use of words like Shukram, omnipotent. So we'll stop there. Purport goes on, but we'll pick it up next time. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, this is a little different section of the Isopanisad. He's been talking about the qualities of the self-realized soul, mostly that he sees everyone equally and is, as he said at the beginning, Ishabhashamidam sarvam yat kinchit jagat janragat. He recognizes that everything in this world is owned and controlled by the Lord, and that we have a right to our quota to maintain body and soul together, basically. But everything else should be offered to the Lord as we can, as in sacrifice, recognizing to whom it belongs. And in that purport there, Prabhupada explains that the whole problem in the world is created because people don't understand this principle. And everyone is trying to get more control of the material energy, and so there's fighting between families, between tribes, between nations. And so this is a very important point, this Ishabhasya principle. But here he's speaking wholly about the quality of the Lord's body, about his form, and that he's unembodied. So this is similar to what we find in the previous purport about the word nirguna. Nirguna literally means without qualities, but in context with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it means without material qualities, what we commonly call the gunas, the three qualities of passion, ignorance, and goodness. He's beyond that. He's eternally beyond that, in the state of Vishuddha Sattva, means perfectly pure goodness, otherwise known as the, who knows the other name for that? The Vasudeva state. Just to make sure, some of you are pretty new, it's very important to distinguish between the word Vasudeva and Vasudeva. That long A makes all the difference. Vasudeva in Krishna Lila is Krishna's father. And you'll find that in Sanskrit, when you have descendants of a person, that oftentimes you'll have one of the vowels becomes long, like you have Dhritarashtra. And beginning of the second chapter, we have a verse that talks about the Dhartarashtrans, the sons of Dhritarashtra. So we have Vasudeva, and his son is Vasudeva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this Vasudeva is said to name the state in which Krishna appears. Just like Vasudeva was so pure, he could actually invoke the Lord to appear through Devaki, and that's how we just celebrated Janmashtami. So this Vasudeva state is beyond the three gunas, the Brahma Bhuta state. And in that, if we are able to rise up to that state by the process of devotional service, then the Lord appears to us within our heart. We see him everywhere. We're conscious of Krishna. This is explained in the 18th chapter. And what's the nature of that Brahma Bhuta state? Prasannatma, nashochati, nakangshati. We can just see how far we have to go. Always joyful, having no lamentation at all, not hankering for anything material. And in that state, Krishna says, bhakti really can be engaged in with me. That's real bhakti begins, the relationship with Krishna. So, Srila Prabhupada explains in this purport, the part that we read, the difference between our form and the Lord's. It's very important to understand that, the contrast between our form and Krishna's form. The form that we have is one of many. Even in this one lifetime, it's constantly changing. So it's not the eternal form, our eternal form. These are a series of imposed forms. Upadis means that something that's imposed on us, so that we impose on ourselves. And then we identify with that. And this is the source of all of the suffering in this material world. Misidentification with the physical body or with the mind, and being in conflict with so many other conditioned souls, according to the different modes of nature. So what is Krishna's form as opposed to ours? Well, Prabhupada makes it very clear here. These are just complicated machines. The body is just a big machine. And yantra rurani maya. Krishna describes it as yantra in the 18th chapter. How Ishvara Ksabhutanam Vrideshayodana Tishyati, that the Lord, this is the Isopanisad, Isha is very appropriate. He's within the heart of everyone. Vrideshayodana Tishyati, Brahmayan Savabhutani. And the living entities are wandering throughout this material world with the Lord accompanying them. They don't know it. Mounted on a machine made of the material energy. Yantra is a machine. And that's these bodies, a series of machines, really. So it's such a contraption. I mean, when you actually just think about what the body is made of, you don't want to think, gee, I'm not that. You know? I'm maybe when I look in the mirror and I see the externals and anything, well, I don't mind being that. But really what the body is yasyatma buddhi kunabeti dhatuke. This is a verse spoken by Krishna in the latter part of the 10th chapter, 10th canto. And he says there that one who identifies the self with the body, which is yasyatma buddhi kunabeti dhatuke. Kunape is like a bag, or a corpse-like bag, which is really dead until we animate it, full of kapavita vayu. This is the three elements of the Ayurveda medicine that they try to balance, Mucus, bile, and air. Which one of those do we really want to identify with? When you think about it, you say, no, I'm not that. So it's a grand illusion. Now in human beings, we have a chance to understand that illusion. The lower animals, the birds, what to speak of the plants, their consciousness is way too covered to understand that. They're just going through, gradually waking up. Their consciousness gradually increasing until it comes to the human form of life. But because we are conditioned souls, we also identify with that, and we need instruction from a higher source to be able to break out of this illusion and start acting and living according to who we really are, the spirit. That's the whole purpose of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada makes it very clear We have to have veins and so many other mechanical things. And we all know, especially as you get older, little parts of it break down. You know, you have the illusion, like everyone knows I climb the stairs. You know, so I feel pretty good. So let me dance. You know, when the kirtan gets going. As soon as I jump a little too much on this stone floor, there's some temples have wooden floor. It's much easier on the feet. But most of them have the marble floor, which is wonderful. You know, it's very clean. You can easily clean it. But as the next day, there'll be a problem with the ankles. I had a sharp pain in my knee when I was going up and down the stairs, you know. And that's just nothing. You know, an old acquaintance of mine, suddenly I heard they have lung cancer, you know. This is what happens in this world. The body, we have all these defenses, right, the immune system, to try to ward off the dangers. But now they have new diseases in America. Watch out for the mosquitoes. There's EEE. I didn't even know what EEE is. You know what EEE is? I forget. It's a certain kind of encephalitis or something that's mosquito-borne, starting to come into America. There's only 7 cases a year, you know, so far, but be careful. I'm going to Florida in a few days. I'm going to take my DEET, my mosquito repellent, make sure if I go outside, you know. This is material life. It's constantly danger. What is it? Padam padam yad vipadam. This is another verse from the Bhagavatam that is spoken by Shukadeva Goswami in chapter 14 of the 10th canto. After Brahma's prayers, he says, Samashita ye palapallavaplavam mahat padam punyasho marari bhavambudir vatsapadam param padam 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 yad vipadam natesham. Prabhupada liked this verse because it's very poetic, you can hear it. So, this is, you know, throughout the Bhagavatam we find this, the contrast between those who take shelter of Krishna and those who don't. So those who take complete shelter, samashrita, every syllable in Sanskrit is important. There's ashrita and there's samashrita. Sam means complete, like sankirtan is total kirtan, right? Kirtan you can sit with a few and chant. Sankirtan, 1,000. So, samashitaye padapallavaplavam, one who takes shelter of the boat of the lotus feet of Murari. Murari is the name for Krishna, means the enemy of Mura demon. Padapallavaplavam. So pallava refers to the lotus feet. But it's a plava. A plava is a boat. Padapallavaplavam. Mahatpadam. Now here's a further description of these feet. Mahatpadam has several meanings. That's that place where all the Mahatmas stay, or the basis of the Mahatattva, in other words, of the universe. It has both meanings. Is the front door locked? Everyone's coming in the side? Is that what's going on here? It's open, but I think we have to leave it open. I think it may have been closed. Hare Krishna, welcome. Do you need a chair? You okay? All right, get some seats for. Get some seats. We have some nice cushion for you, over on this side. Okay. Deities first. Deities first. Okay. So, Mahatpadam Punya Yasha. Who can say what Punya Yasha means? The glorification of whom brings piety automatically. Yasha is fame. Punya Yasha. So, Punya Yasha Murari. Then what happens if you take shelter? Bhavambudir Vatsapadam. Means the water. We're talking about an ocean. You're taking shelter of the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna. It shrinks down to the water contained, not even a hoofprint of a cow, the hoofprint of a calf. In other words, you can just step over it. That ocean, which the yogis and the muktivads are trying to get past, thousands of years, severe austerities. If we really take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet and practice bhakti properly, then we're already liberated. That's what this is all about. So, Mahatpadam, Bhavambude Vatsapadam, Parampadam, because you're already in the supreme Brahmabhuta platform. Parampadam means you've transcended this material world. That's the supreme situation. And then, very dramatically, Padam Padam Yad Vipadam Natesham. For them is not this place where there is danger at every step. We're in danger at every step. I mean, we've all been following, right? There's this hurricane blowing up. I always like to point out, I used to live in Florida. We never had hurricanes like this. 200-mile-an-hour gusts? 200 miles an hour. The Bahamas is getting beaten down now, you know? It's because of all of the sinful activities and burning the fossil fuels, heating the ocean. The ocean is hot. These hurricanes, they crawl along and they get super powerful. The same thing happened in Houston. Remember all that rain just a few years ago? So that's a danger. You're living, you know, you've bought with great expense some beachfront property, or you're vacationing in the Bahamas just at the wrong time. And suddenly the whole thing explodes and you realize that, wow, there's a tremendous danger here. There's nothing we can do about it. You know? In other words, it's just one of the threefold miseries. The Adi-Daivic miseries, when they get going, it's just devastating. So that's the nature of life in this material world. Mataji, please, on this side. You didn't bring a seat. Here, right here. Yeah, very nice. Just to keep the etiquette going. You can sit there. Okay, there you go. So Krishna's body is never subject to that. It's not a machine. It's pure spirit. There's no difference between different parts of his body. This is why when we chant the holy name, and the purer we chant, the more we experience it, you experience the presence of Krishna, which is so purifying. That's how this movement has grown, that's how it's sustained, and that's how it will grow. Because if someone simply takes up the chanting, even without any preliminary purification, it's so powerful. You get purified right away. It's the science, you know. Now, if you refine your consciousness and you're able to chant with less and less offense, then you feel, then you really feel your relationship with Krishna growing. The whole thing is the quality of the chanting. Because Krishna is absolute, probably this absolute means his hands can, he can accept things with his eyes. We're offering this every day. How many times? 8 times a day? Or how many offerings? 6. So the consciousness is prepared, the consciousness is offered. Krishna sees that. Right? What does he say in the Gita? We can all chant together. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktupaditam ashnami prayatatmanaha. So he's giving categories. Patram pushpam palam toyam. Basically vegetarian food, milk products, fruits, vegetables like that. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. One who offers them with bhakti, prepares and offers with bhakti. Tadaham bhakti paradam. He emphasizes in the 3rd line, which is offered with bhakti. Make sure that's the main ingredient. I'd probably like to say, he doesn't need your pattam pushpam palam doyam. He's looking for your bhakti, love. Ashnami prayatam. I eat it. Ashnami means to eat. I consume it. Prayatatmanaha. Those who are my devotees. So how does that work? Now in very rare cases we find in Lord Chaitanya's pastime that the food is offered with such sincerity and prayer that the food is actually eaten. Who was that young boy who offered in Chaitanya Leela? I forget, but his father told him to make the offering, and he came back and there was nothing on the plate. What happened? You didn't make the offering? I made the offering. And Krishna ate it. That's rare. But he still eats it, even if he just looks at it. That's the point. He can eat with his eyes. He can communicate with us, through any way. So, but because we can't perceive him in the heart, he comes outside as a manifestation. 2 main manifestations, as the Guru and as the Shastra. The Guru and the Shastra, directly with the Bhagavad Gita. He's speaking to us. But why didn't it have an effect until Prabhupada came and did his Bhagavad Gita as it is? Because it was being presented impurely, not by devotees, for some political reason or whatever, as I couldn't understand. I'm doing my paper, PhD on Indian religion, so let me do the Bhagavad Gita. No, it has to be given by the devotee, and through that medium, Krishna actually speaks, and he attracts, and that's why Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita is why we study it, and why it continues to have an impact. So. That he's unembodied, which means there's no difference between his body and his soul. And then how and why does he appear? We just had Janmashtami. So the famous verse is Yadaya Dahi Dharmasya Glana Bhavati Bharata in the 4th chapter, that Krishna says, whenever and wherever there's discrepancies in religion, at that time I manifest myself to protect the devotees, reestablish religion, and eliminate the miscreants. And Arjun, playing the role of of us, a curious devotee. So how's that work? You're my contemporary. How did you speak millions of years ago to the sun god, which he just said, he did a few verses back. So then he explains the intricacies of his appearance that are not so apparent. Bahuni mevatitani janmani tabacharjana tanyaham vedasavana natambeta panandava. I've had many, many appearances, and you're always my companion. But because you change your body, you forget. I don't forget. So I know exactly what I said to the sun god, I remember perfectly. And then he explains, Ajopi san abhyayatma bhutanam isharopi san prakatam swamadishtaya sambhavanyatma mayaya. Although I am unborn, my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all, still in every millennium I appear by my internal energy. In other words, it's Krishna's own will that he appears. We didn't have anything to do with our appearance. We're forced to appear according to our previous activity. This is a very important distinction. Krishna appears by his own sweet will for his own purposes. And when he appears in the material world, it's not to engage in some enjoyment. It is for our benefit. It's for our benefit. Because we're making a mess of things. We need help. We need an intervention. Just like if someone is completely addicted, one of your friends or your parents or some relative is completely addicted to alcohol or some drug, and you care about them, you're trying to help them, sometimes you just take them by the shoulder and say, no, you're coming with me to rehab. And if they surrender, then they can get benefit. Means that there's a discipline. There are do's and don'ts, and you're in the association of others who are also struggling in the same way and have the same guidance, and you get strength from that, from being in that environment. All alone, sitting in your room with the bottle on the table, there's no way the senses have taken control. Just like Krishna describes in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita at the end. Arjuna wants to know, after all of this about, acting in a certain way for sacrifice and how this is karma yoga. What is it that forces us to act against our own best interests? Seemingly by force. Atakena payuktoham papam charati purusha anichan nabivarshnaya baladi vinayojit. Against our own will, what I want, but somehow I'm forced to do it and I have to take a drink. He doesn't use those exact words, but that's what he's talking about. And Krishna says, it's material desire. Kama esha, krodha esha. When frustrated, turns into anger, which is the eternal enemy of the soul. This is your real enemy, Arjuna, not those soldiers out there. So then he describes how this enemy takes over the strategic places in the city of the body. Indriyani manobuddhir asyadhisthana muchyate etava mohayatesha jnanamavata dehinam. Because what differentiates us from the animals? The animals also act according to their desires, and they have fears, and they run away, or they fight. But they don't have the intelligence to understand. The word should doesn't exist for animals. Should means that you should do something which you may not want to do, or which may call you, but for the ultimate good you do it. That's ethical, that's morals. There's nothing like that in the animal life. So we've come through all these animals. We still have this tendency to just do what comes naturally, what we feel like doing. And then, we commit a sin, we suffer like that. So, this kama, material desire, has taken over the senses, mind, and intelligence of the conditioned soul. And through them, it covers the innate knowledge that we have. Always remember that we have the knowledge that we're learning here, we used to know. We come from the spiritual world. We were once enlightened. Now we're darkened. We're not enlightened anymore. But we can become enlightened again by cultivation of Krishna, by good association. Last night, Balaram Prabhu gave this wonderful talk, and he referred to the sword of knowledge. And I don't know if you were thinking of this verse, but there's you know which one? Yeah. There's several. There's one in the 2nd chapter, but there's one at the end of the 12th chapter in the 16th verse in the 12th chapter of the 5th canto, which exactly speaks about this getting the sword of knowledge. And this is exactly what we're doing. This is what these classes are about, of getting the sword and sharpening that sword of knowledge. And this is Jud Bharat speaking to Maharaj Rahugana. Now, Jada Bharat is a second reincarnation of King Bharat, who retired to the forest and became very advanced, just meditating on his own. You know, he was a great king, but he gave up in an early life. He left everything. Goes to the Himalayas and is meditating on Krishna. He's a bhakta, and he rises up to the point of bhava. Describes some of his, ecstasies. So, but what happens is that there's a, there's a little stream nearby, and then suddenly he hears this roaring lion. He looks up, and there's a deer running from a lion, a pregnant deer running from a lion. Now, lions apparently don't go into the water. And so the deer, lucky, just got into this little river, it's a stream, before the lion. The lion was on the shore, But the deer was scared like anything you can imagine, terrified. So this poor pregnant deer somehow gets to the other shore, gives birth, and dies. So now you have this helpless little fawn, right, who everybody loves, right, Bambi. I don't know if anyone remembers Bambi. But, and here's, this Vaishnav who sees this helpless fawn. And of course his heart goes out to the fawn. I can just leave this fawn. He picks up the fawn, and wipes it down, and tries to give it something to eat. And so he developed an attachment to the fawn. The fawn knew no one else but Bharat as the mother, right? Because it's just born. So this was very powerful attraction developed. And King Bharat, describes he's meditating, but he's thinking of the fawn, or the fawn is chewing at his ear. It's time for some grass, And he couldn't think of anything but the fawn. He's trying to think of Krishna, but is that fawn okay? Where is he? Like that. So he became distracted. Eventually died, became a deer. But in that deer's body, he wasn't an ordinary deer. He remembered his previous life. So he didn't associate with the other deer. He kind of just got nearby where there's some sadhus who are talking about Krishna. He would hang out and listen, right? So eventually he leaves that deer body, and he gets the body of a Brahmin. But he's careful this time. He doesn't want to get in Maya. So he plays at being dumb. He doesn't talk. That's the Jada part. So there's a whole bunch of adventures. And he almost gets sacrificed by some Kali worshippers. But Kali, this is a bhakta. She comes out of the statue and kills all of her worshippers. And anyway, it's the whole thing. And eventually he gets dragooned into carrying a palanquin for a king, King Rahugana. And but he doesn't want to step on any ants or anything. So it's kind of a very irregular ride. And so King Rahugana gets upset with him and starts chastising. And finally Jada Bharat speaks. And when he speaks, he's revealing his knowledge. And the king says, "Oh my God, you're a realized soul." And he gets down from the palanquin and he offers obeisance because he's not a demon, he's a devotee of sorts. Anyway, and then there's this several chapters of instruction of Jada Bharat to King Rahugana. And this is near the end of the instruction. So what he says, and the reason I told the story, because this verse, I read the commentary by Vishwanath Chakravarti and describes the significance of this verse. So it talks about the sword of knowledge. He says, Tasmad. Now whenever you see a verse begin tas means therefore, there's a nice argument before it. So it's nice to read those, and it kind of culminates. Tasmad naro sanga susanga jata ganasine naiva vivrikna moha hadim tariha katana shuddhabdham labdasmitir yatidipana madvana. This is such a wonderful verse. So he says, therefore, O king, every human being, by the process of giving up bad association and taking good association. Now, of course, you have to find out what each one is, so you have to, read. But he's summarizing. By that process, one will develop the sword of knowledge, jnanasina, by which you can cut off the vivrikna moha, all of your illusion. You cut through it and you destroy your illusion. That's not the end of it. And he says, harim tariha, and in that state of preliminary enlightenment, you listen to and chant the glories of the pastimes of Hari. Harim tariha. Now that includes the pastimes of creation as well as the pastimes of Vrindavan. Iha, long I, long A, has nothing to do with the word here, which is iha, but it means the activities. Hari of who? Harim. Iha katana shutabhyam. And by that process, labda smatir yatatipanam, you regain your remembrance. Now this can mean two things. Prabhupada translates it as one remembers what he forgot. In other words, we remember Krishna, which we had long forgot. And in this process, you go very swiftly on the path back to Godhead. Yatatipanam. Now, one of the significance, what I didn't realize before, since I looked it up last night, because you talk about the sword of knowledge, and that is that the problem with Bharat's sadhana is that he had no guru. When he got attracted, right, he was already at the bhava stage, just as preliminary to prema. But as any Vaishnava would, you see this helpless fawn, try to help him. What he should have done, is help the fawn get settled and then leave. Just like you take sannyas, you leave your wife, whatever, But you just have to cut it off because it's too much of it. He didn't leave. He sat down for meditation, and the fawn, of course, was right about him, and he got entangled. But he had no instructor. He was all alone. So that's where the asanga susanga comes in. You have to separate yourself from the bad association, but you have to seek out the good association. You can't do it all alone. And so this is what the lesson was that Bharata learned, and that's what the Bhagavatam is giving us. So that's what we're doing. This whole movement is based on that. There's two things going on. There's the sadhana, the kirtan, or the worship of the deities, but the very important foundation of it all is the knowledge. Prabhupada worked so hard to give us these books. Just like I'll tell you, because I'm always absorbed in this now. The Isopanisad. Before there was the Bhagavatam class, there was the Isopanisad class. When Prabhupada went to L.A. in 70, he had a wonderful facility there. The same place we have now, Watseka Avenue, had just been bought. He stayed there for like 8 months. He had the temple presidents in America, maybe there's 20, 30 of temples by then. They all came to L.A. to learn deity worship. There is where he finally set up the morning program. But when he first came, it was Isopanisad class, because there was no Bhagavatam printed. The only Bhagavatam was Prabhupada's original, Delhi Bhagavatam, which was being re-edited. So this is what they studied, the Isopanisad. And Prabhupada, stayed there and set up, and devotees who were there, it was like, you can imagine the time, 8 months with Prabhupada there every day. They made devotees every day. Every day new people were joining. Dhanavai Maharaj told me that one time. Vishnu Jan was there, kirtan. When they first started, the morning program, it started maybe 7 o'clock. The whole thing wasn't developed yet, but Prabhupada set it up. And they would go out, Harinam, I don't know, in the morning they would go out, come back for lunch, then they would go out in the afternoon and come back for dinner, go out in the evening, come back at like 11 o'clock, get up at 7. A lot of kirtan. All that kirtan was extremely purifying. So, but eventually Prabhupada settled on the program we have today, and one of the essential aspects of it was, of course, the class. Because all of the things we're doing, it's just like King Bharat. The process works, but without that critical association and the developing knowledge by which you can direct the mind and senses to stay on the path and not get off the path, then it's very difficult to make advancement. Even with all of that we had, still so many Prabhupada disciples, couldn't weather the storms going through the decades. You get deviated. So this is Prabhupada is giving us this knowledge here, and one of the basic parts of the knowledge is understanding Krishna's form, God's form. That in the second paragraph, he quotes Brahma Samhita, right at the beginning of this chapter, right? Ishvarak Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. That he has a form, and that form is eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. And in the previous purport, we learned about it. We're also, our eternal form is that way also. But because we're minute, we have more tendency, we can get covered over by the material energy. But we want mukti. We don't want the mukti of just merging into the white light. Devotees don't worry about mukti. But we should know that mukti is one of the benefits, side benefits of bhakti. You know the definition? You know that phrase? Muktir? Yeah. It talks about rupa. Rupa, it's not formless. Muktir is not just losing your form and merging into the white light and being without any thoughts or anything like that. It's not becoming Brahman. It's hitva anyata rupam swarupena vivastati. So what does that mean? Hitva means giving up. Anyata rupam, other roops, other forms, like we have right now. This is not our real form. And we're going to give this one up anyway, right? As soon as you grow a little bit, after you get 5 years down the road, you realize, well, I look a little bit different. Yeah, you've got a whole different form. So we've had millions of forms, different material forms. None of them has been us. But there is a swarup. A swarup means the form of the soul. And it's perfectly situated, or perfectly composed for us to engage in our own custom-made service to Krishna in one of the 5 rasas. You know, we don't know what that rupa is. It may have nothing to do at all with what our external form is now. Gender may be different. You know, we may even be a cow. Cows are fully conscious in the spiritual world. What a glorious state to go out with Krishna every day and come back. You know, he knows your name, calls with the flute. Come on. But it could be a boy, it could be a girl, it could be a parent, whatever, servant. But that form is ours. That's our sarup. A sarup siddhi is to hear the lila, and engage in the service, and gradually become purified so that we become attracted to a certain way of serving Krishna. And then at the time of death, leaving this form behind forever, material form. And then, this is something you may not realize, to go to that place in the material universe where Krishna is appearing, because, you know, it's like the sun. Krishna's Leela going on in some universe right now. Right now, he's taking birth. Not last 2 Fridays ago, but this right now. His Janmashtami is going on. But in another universe, he's killing a Gasur, another universe, he's dancing with the Gopi. So somewhere, you know, when we leave this body, just at that time, Krishna's going to be we take birth, we become his contemporaries, and we complete our training for our specific relationship or rasa. And then we go to the Goloka and we're resituated back in our... So that's the goal of this. It's very exalted. It's nothing material. So it begins with understanding who we are and who Krishna is. And that's why this phrase Satchidananda Vigraha is so important. Eternal form, fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss. And I wanted to mention, this next sentence wasn't there. It had been lost in the 1969 printing of Isopanisad and the 1975 printing of Isopanisad. So he is the eternal form fully representing transcendental existence, knowledge, and bliss. As such, he does not require a separate body or mind as we do in material existence. So what do you think? Was it worthwhile resurrecting that sentence? It had been lost to oblivion? Or did I make an offense? Okay, anyway, I don't want to get into that. Any questions, comments on these points? We'll have to pick this up when I return from Alachua, where I'm going next Saturday for about 10 days. Anything? Yes, Bhakta Krishnian. Maybe he's changed his name. Krishnian. Instead of Christian.
I call him Harekrishna.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Thank you, Dravida Prabhu.
And thank you for writing that verse. I know it wasn't an easy verse.
Well, I'm reflecting on the fact that you said Krishna doesn't have veins.
I didn't say it. It's right in the verse.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and I was thinking on my own life, and there was times when I was in such illusion that I thought maybe I was Krishna.
Yeah, that's big illusion.
And if I would have read, he doesn't have veins, well, I have veins. And
yes,
and I've seen them, and I look at them every day, and that would have just...
Too.
Yeah, and that would have just totally...
Well, now I'm glad you were in the class. Now you know for sure, forevermore, that you're not Krishna.
Yeah. I guess that's part of the question.
Okay.
Because Maya is so strong that it will come back with that Mayavadi, intention, and like as part of reflecting back on my life, I remember there was one point where I actually believed that, and life started getting a little crazy, and it wasn't for very long. It was maybe like a month that I was like, okay, that works for me. And then now I'm just trying to get that all out. And,
yes, I hope you stay on the side of light.
Yes.
I'm telling you, that last part of the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is so illuminating in so many ways, because you can easily see how it works in your own life. Material desire covers our actual knowledge. And if you have a good, strong intelligence, then it'll induce you to formulate a philosophy, to practically convince yourself, first of all, there's no God. And second of all, that I'm pretty much a God, and this is, you go through life until you get disabused. So this is why, there's so much instruction about control of the senses and pleasing Krishna's senses and being austere, because that disease, Krishna calls it a disease. Actually, it's called, in the last verse of the 5 chapters dealing with the rasa dance, it talks about kama as a disease, ridrogam, the disease of the heart. And that can be conquered, can be cured by hearing with great faith and from the right person the rasa dance. That's why Prabhupada gave us the Krishna book. And if you read those 5 chapters in the Krishna book, you see there's a whole bunch of philosophy, before he gets into the actual description, so that we can understand it correctly. But this believing in the reality of Krishna and the power and beauty and the attractiveness and the glory of the Lord, it helps us to realize there's no way in any way that I'm God. But it's so encouraging that we have a place in God's pastimes, that if we act properly, we can revive our original relationship with God and experience them. We experience those lila, with Him as the center and so forth, in the process of bhakti. So it is just like being cured of a disease. This disease of ignorance and illusion, it's a fatal disease. It has tremendous ramifications. Everyone is suffering from it. And they don't know. It's like, there's this pamphlet, very famous pamphlet, we had a few copies here, Reservoir of Pleasure, Krishna the Reservoir of Pleasure. Well, Krishna is in everyone's heart, right? We know that. That means within our heart we have this great reservoir of pleasure which we can tap into, but we don't know about it. So we're going out. Our senses go out. How can I, we settle for the very pale reflection, perverted reflection of that pleasure, which just brings pain. Yehi samspajita bhoga dukkha yone hevate. These are the words of Krishna. This pleasure of the senses, and it includes the mind, all the subtle pleasures, is the source of your misery. But we're enjoying beings. We're also Satchit Ananda. Where's the Ananda? We're looking for the Ananda. So the whole idea is to learn how to connect to that reservoir of pleasure through the process of humble service to the lotus feet of the Lord and the spiritual master and all the devotees. That's where the bliss is. We heard, I think Maharaj was giving the talk, about how God Himself wants to take the role of the servant of God, because that's where the bliss is, even more bliss than He appears. That's Lord Chaitanya. And you read the CC, how Advaita Acharya, who's also a Vishnu Tattva, he insisted on, he's older than Lord Chaitanya, so Lord Chaitanya would naturally show respect. He didn't like that. He wanted to be at the lotus feet of Krishna, of Lord Chaitanya. So you know what he did? He started preaching Mayavad philosophy, just so Lord Chaitanya would get angry at him. So Lord Chaitanya, he played along. He went over there, he started beating him, physically. And Advaita was in ecstasy. Now, finally, I'm in my right position. You see the difference between us and them? It was like anyone just looks crooked at us, we immediately take umbrage, and ready to punch him in the nose. But the real mood of devotee is humble as a blade of grass, But don't forget Krishna. That's the thing, You read I was reading the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because I'm going to Alachua. I'm going to give class on the appearance day, I think, of Bhaktivinoda, coming up a week from Wednesday or something like that. So I thought I'd review. I read this book, the Seventh Goswami, and then I thought I'd read some of the songs. So he has this Sharanagati songbook. So he says, okay, the first part of Sharanagati is humility. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I've gone through life, I just cultivated material knowledge, and I got entangled in family life, and I wasted my whole life. And then the last verse says, in this state, my Lord, please pick me up, This is humility. To really understand our helpless situation and how we need the Lord's mercy and the Lord's devotee's mercy at every moment. And that's the proper attitude to, where Krishna responds and receives. That's the attitude to successfully chant the holy name. The whole process culminates in how we're chanting the holy name. What's the purity? What's the sincerity? This is another editing pastime, then I'll let you go because I know it's getting late. In Queen Kunti's prayers, there's a famous prayer about chanting the holy name. Janmaishaya Shuddhashiva Edamana Madakpamanaiva Hattipadatan Vai Tvama Kinchana Gochara. You, my Lord, you are Kinchana Gochara. You are easily approached by those who don't claim anything as theirs in this world. You see? But those who are too progressively intoxicated with the four opulences of good birth, aristocratic birth, Aishwarya, very great wealth, physical beauty, which is a big deal, and education, they cannot address you with deep feeling. They cannot call out to you with deep feeling because they have other shelters in this world, you see. But that was lost in the translation because Prabhupada had it, but it was misedited. So we resurrected as another one we resurrected. But that's the whole point, is to feel oneself completely bereft except for the Lord's lotus feet and His service and the devotees. If the more other shelters we take, the less pure our chanting will be. So anyway, it's getting late. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.